What are we doing next, Sal?
Let's get this one out of the way. Temple of the Ocean King.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay. Hey, listen, I will say this till the day I die. Phantom Hourglass has a special place in my heart. I will say that my love of Phantom Hourglass has plummeted like quite a bit. Like I don't know, there's just like this little bit of a fall because of playing Spirit Tracks. Spirit Tracks is a far superior game. Um, Temple of the Ocean King, and I've said this before too, if you know how to do it efficiently, it's not that bad, but it's also not like super fun to do. It's like you got to do it because you got to do it. Especially if you forget to talk to Oshus before you go in to get the sword. That's awful. So
There's a
I've
vote of
done that.
confidence.
It's like I love Phantom Hourglass, but it doesn't have a lot of redeeming qualities, and definitely Temple of the Ocean King is not one of the redeeming qualities. So this is probably pretty low on the list. However, it is a lot more of a dungeon, quote unquote, than the moon,
That is true. That is true.
which I would like literally hate myself to rank this above the moon, though.
No, and I'm not going to. I
Okay.
won't do that. But I think that you're right. I think that it's more of like a cohesive dungeon, but it's like a worse. Like I don't think it's very
It's
good.
like I'd rather go to the moon and
Yeah.
bing bong around in the Goron area than go and do Temple of the Ocean King.
Can I tell you something that I did the other day?
What's
So
that?
when you were streaming Breath of the Wild, and you were in the labyrinth in Gerudo,
Oh
or
yeah,
maybe it was the one in whatever. You were in one of the labyrinths, the
yeah.
mazes, and I said like, oh, this looks like Temple of the Ocean King. All the walls look the same, dude. I cackled at my own joke for like 10 minutes. It was so ridiculous. I was like,
So
damn,
dumb.
Andy, that was so funny. Sam's like, what are you? Why are you laughing? Are you laughing at Allison? And I was like, no, I'm laughing at my joke. It was awesome. And I told her, and she didn't get it. And I was just like sitting there by myself, like. So I don't
So
know why.
dumb.
I just wanted to share that with you. But
Very special.
yeah, I don't know. This would be maybe higher if you didn't repeatedly come back to it, like
Yeah,
repeatedly. I think that that definitely takes away from the gravitas of the dungeon because like you kind of feel like you've already been there, you've seen it, you've done it, you especially like because you've said multiple times that like if you know what you're doing, you can cheese your way through the first like bit of the dungeon pretty quickly.
yeah,
Um, so I think that that kind of takes away from the final dungeon feel of it. And certainly the fact that you have to keep going back there multiple times takes away from the dungeon feel of it, or the final dungeon feel of it. And
yeah,
it's not that fun. I don't think. Slowly walking around and lugging Triforce pieces and just, ugh.
yeah. And some of those puzzles are a little bit tough, and you have a time limit. So I
Yeah,
think I like the Tower Spirits better because you don't have a time limit and you can just die and f around as much as you want, and it's not as detrimental as in Temple of the Ocean King.
yeah. So I think that this is certainly low. It's the lowest on our list so far, for sure. Um, yeah, I just well, speaking of one that's kind of along the same lines here, and I don't know how to define this one again, but let's talk about the Windfish's egg from Link's Awakening.
Okay.
So this is kind of a strange one because this isn't a dungeon necessarily. Um, I like the final dungeon of Link's Awakening is Turtle Rock. Um, that's supposed to be your final dungeon when you play the game, and then when you go to the Windfish's egg, it's more of like a I don't know. It's closer to something like the Moon from Majora's Mask, but even with less combat. So basically, when you walk into this egg, it's a maze, and you have to go and take the correct path to get to the nightmare. And you can find out where the correct path is throughout your journey in the game. But if you don't take the correct path, you're essentially just like walking in circles, and you'll go back to the beginning. And I don't I don't think it's very strong actually, and not just because there's no puzzles or nothing to do really, but it's just kind of like dark and dank and kind of like a different vibe than the rest of Link's Awakening, which I guess you would expect since you're going into this egg and fighting something called the Nightmare or whatever, but I think maybe they could have made it like a little bit more surreal or a little bit more like dreamlike. Like, you know, at the end of Link's Awakening when you see the Windfish and there's like the crazy star background and whatever?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that's a pretty cool shot, and I think that what they could have done is made that entire inside the Windfish's egg part kind of like that, and maybe just had like a little something for you to do other than just navigate the maze. So, this one's kind of tough because like Turtle Rock is intended to be your final dungeon, but it's not a final dungeon in the context of what we are talking about here.
Yeah.
Especially if you're playing Link's Awakening DX, where like if you're like me, you'll actually do Eagle's Tower last and do Turtle Rock beforehand. So it's kind of like, you know, this is our final dungeon, but there's not really anything dungeon-like for us to do other than walk around. So
in the sense, it's kind of like the moon a little bit, where it's like kind of a cool idea, cool concept,
yeah.
But there's not really a dungeon function of it.
This would be akin to the moon in Majora's Mask. If you got to the moon, looked around, and were just like, nope, I'm just going to go fight Majora, and you went and did that. Except this one would have you kind of navigate a little bit of a maze before you actually got to fight Majora. So I definitely think this ranks lower than the moon. Because there, at least in the moon, you have the option to do, you know, the extra stuff and the extra puzzles and get the extra heart, etc., etc. What I'm wondering is if it ranks lower than Tower of Spirits and Temple of the Ocean King. What do you think?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't remember playing it that much, and I have played it like it's been like 3 years now.
Right.
But I think that kind of says a lot. That again, it's not like one of those like just epic ending of a story, kind of like Skykeep, kind of like Ocarina of Time's Castle or Hyrule Castle and Breath of the Wild. So, which is kind of not fair. It's Link's Awakening, but in the sense that it does kind of add to the story a little bit. The concept is cool, but it's just not much. I would say I actually might enjoy. Ooh, this is hard. I would say probably right below Spirit Tracks.
I think I would actually put it below Temple of the Ocean King as well.
Really?
I think I
would. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you go with it because you know this game a little bit more than I do.
I mean, there's just nothing there. Like, there's nothing there, especially if you are, like,
at least it's more than Room of Rights, is what you're saying?
It's more than Room of Rights. Definitely more than... I mean, Room of Rights, you get there, and you walk into the room, and you fight Twin Rova. Whereas, is this one, at least, you do have to navigate kind of, like, a little bit of a maze, and you're... You know, you're walking around, and if you don't know the sequence, it can be... I don't know, it can be a drawn-out process, but I think that would also be a frustrating process. So it's like, on one hand, it's either like you're getting constantly lost, or on the other hand, it's like right, left, up, down, sideways, and like, oh, I'm at Nightmare. So like, there's not much of substance there, and I think that Temple of the Ocean King, like,
at least has some substance. It's not very enjoyable substance, but
yeah, it's like, would you rather eat? Do you like cilantro?
Yeah, I love cilantro.
Okay, well, this isn't going to work then. I was going to say, because my wife hates cilantro. And we got burritos the other day that had cilantro on it, Al. She mistaken. I like cilantro, but she doesn't. So I was going to say, it's like, would you rather eat a burrito with cilantro on it, or would you rather have no burrito at all?
You know what? We can use the same analogy because I don't like beans. Would I rather eat a burrito with beans in it, or would I rather have no burrito and I'd rather have no burrito?
Oh my God. You don't like beans? What's the matter with you?
I don't like the texture. It's the texture.
It's the magical fruit.
Like. You know what's funny is I'm going to make chili for my dinner this week, and it's going to be beanless chili.
What? Yeah, Allison, we got to do that food episode for the Spiteri show.
Oh, we do, because your thoughts on nachos without cheese is ridiculous.
Chili without beans? What kind of serial killer are you?
There's such a thing. Like, it exists. Nachos is defined by having cheese.
Let's move on. All right. Well, actually, we can't move on yet. Where are we putting this beanless burrito above Temple of the Ocean King or below it?
Below it.
All right.
I'll suffer with the beans.
Fishes. Egg. No beans. Okay. Perfect. Whose turn is it? It's your turn.
Okay.